This is the S.J. Childs Show, hosted by S.J. Childs, streaming on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Find us on all social medias. The S.J. Childs Show, bringing value to families through education and resources. Check us out weekly, where we'll have new and exciting guests. Thanks so much for your support. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by S.J. Childs Books for Children. Visit sjchilds.org today to check out their special needs book collection. Teach inclusion and neurodiversity in this special 7-book collection. Get yours today. Sponsors include Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com. By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah. This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah. Hi, and welcome to the S.J. Childs Show. I'm your host, S.J. Childs. And today I have a very important topic to discuss with you, a special guest, Sterling Shrout. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here today, Sterling. I'm really excited to get into a conversation and bring the viewers and the listeners a good education about what you do. And cliffhanger onto you. Give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and why you're here today.
Well, thanks for having me. So a little bit about my background. Together, I've got 13 consecutive years in either on probation, parole, incarcerated, or through addiction recovery treatment centers, things like that. And a lot of those overlap as well. So that was 15 to 28 spent in the system, in the criminal justice system, in one way or another. If not criminal justice system, then I was either a ward of the state or on some sort of community programs. So that's the overview of it. A lot of it goes back to drug trafficking as a young teenager. I grew up in a lot of poverty. I grew up in my graduating class would have been 2009. So kind of that Great Recession era. I don't think I'd ever filled a gas tank till I was 24 years old, at least on any of my own vehicles. I went to prison at 19. I got out a few days before my 23rd birthday, and that was again for trafficking, drug trafficking. And I kind of realized I didn't know what I was getting into, obviously, but after getting out, there was a big disconnect between the skills that I had and the skills needed to exist as a felon. I remember going to apply at Chipotle and, getting denied there because of my background. And kind of after that point, I'd given up on the jobs that I was after and sought more entry-level jobs. And after that, something just kind of snapped and I didn't quite care as much anymore. And that's where the addiction stuff really kicked in and took off with that. So, fast forwarding, I'd managed to get sober for brief periods of time, still on probation or in programs. I finally got off probation the last time in 2019. So not too long ago. It was technically right after my son was born. He was born in February 2019, and I was sober mostly, I should say, I guess, through my wife's pregnancy with him. And then shortly after he was born, he was about 4 or 5 months old. I relapsed for a few weeks, about 2 weeks, and I had never overdosed prior to that. And this, I got lucky. I happened to be using it at Taco Bell drive-through window where you order, and I overdosed there, and that was a good spot for people to find me, at least. So anyways, coming back from that overdose, I woke up kind of right when we were getting into the hospital, and that was a really traumatic experience, or there was something there besides the trauma. But ultimately what came from that is I realized I didn't want to die. And that was after so many years of struggling and not really having too much meaning or purpose in my life. That was a really rock solid starting point. For sure, 100%, I do not want to die. I don't want to leave my son to figure stuff out on his own. And then life, I guess, isn't so bad or wasn't so bad that, that alternative was an option. And so starting from there, just tried to kind of keep my stuff together. Started working, kept working, managed to save up a couple $1,000s. Went to the Google gods and asked them, how do I invest this to stop being poor? And it led me to a podcast, which led me to getting a whole bunch of financial education and seeking that on my own, and starting to find some mentors and role models. And from there, things get better. So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable story as well. And my listeners and viewers will understand and know that my husband also lived his life in the system, in and out of detention. And when he turned 18, I think he was 18, he did not go back, thank goodness. But it still has the effect, his mental state, will say sometimes it's easily triggered by things like that. And I see how much you have to overcome to get past that type of a life. So congratulations, by the way, on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And children do give us that extra step, don't they? That extra okay, I have responsibility now. I can't really just be taking risks here, left and right, wherever I want to.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because my risk tolerance, for obvious reasons, was through the roof. And now it's still pretty high compared to a lot of people, because I know where, I don't want to say absolute bottom, overdose and homelessness and all that stuff again, but the worst case scenario where I have to go get a 9-to-5 job and I make, X amount of money. So my investing risk or my, things like that is extremely higher than most people's. So. Definitely.
Tell us about how you got started doing what you're doing now, the program that you're, but we're going to talk about.
Okay. So, back to that podcast I found, one of the guests on there had mentioned a nonprofit that he started. And the whole idea of that was to help kids escape from poverty. And that's onelifefully-lived.org. So anyways, I went on there back when they had an online roadmap and you could go through it. And I just started doing that on my own. And there was one specific moment in there where they do, he calls it a 90-year vision or 100-year vision. It's one of those two. And you basically, whatever, get quiet, sit down, and think about where you want to be when you're, say, 90 years old. What's around you? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Everything, kind of envision the whole thing. And one of the things that happened for me was, I saw ultimately, where I wanted to be. I wanted to have a cabin. I wanted mountains around it.
Nice.
Some generations of, kids and grandkids and like a functioning, healthy family. There's some religious divide in my family, so we don't all necessarily hang out. That was something I never kind of grew up with, and that's something I wanted to create. But somewhere through writing that out, like I vividly remember, like some sort of emotion or, something about that kind of rocked me. And then looking back, there was like hope or a glimmer of hope or something that was achievable. I don't know exactly what things are going to look like, but that kind of, creating that life is possible. And that gave me a direction to push forward to. And, all my plans kind of get me closer to that. All my goals get me closer to that. Things change, but I at least have a direction to go in. So,
yeah, no, it's beautiful when you change your mindset, those steps open up and they become easier to see, and you have a better perspective and an easier time finding them. So the opportunities, can come to make change and live out your change.
Yeah. And moving forward with them, just continue doing, any calls they provided or any materials or, resources for education. Just stuck with them for a while, and I ended up, meeting people and just like really good people trying to help. And I can't specifically say they've ever given me anything or even necessarily like direct opportunities or anything, but hanging out with people, even though it's through Zoom or, virtually, you are who you hang out with ultimately, in my opinion. And that started to bring me up, these people who were either successful or somebody I look up to, in another way, emotionally or, mental health, whatever. Those people believing in you, kind of lifting you up as you go. And, I don't know. It was for me, it was great. So to have that kind of community or that sense of community.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things I thought of too during while you were talking, and that was, the types of two things, the types of addiction, first of all, that people can go through, because it doesn't just mean alcohol or drugs. And there's so many types of addictions, right? That we can go through in our lives. Something that I think you'll appreciate this story more than anyone I've ever told it to. And that was in about 2005. I had just met my husband and boyfriend at the time. And we decided, if we really want to make this work, we really have to work on the one thing that we know we're both horrible at, and that is being honest. And I was addicted to lying 100%. Like I used it for getting out of things, being embarrassed, defense mechanisms, staying out of trouble, whatever you want to call it. Like I literally used it to my advantage all the time. And at the time, there were no classes you could go to stop lying per se, but I did go to an NA. And I sat through the entire process. And as they all went around and said, all of their addictions at first, I think that people were a little bit unsure of why I was there for that purpose, that it wasn't the same as their journey, which of course it didn't need to be. It was mine.
Yeah.
But in that process and through that process, I was able to let go of that addiction in my life and have such a more, 20 years later, such a more positive life now, 17 years. And so it's amazing, though, that when we face our fears of addictions head on, that's when we can make changes. When we take accountability, for those around us that we've hurt by it, that we've hurt ourselves. And I think that's the biggest part too, is realizing that in seeking out a different group of people to be around and everything, not only are you like appreciating the pedestal that they're on and you're looking up to them, but you're building yourself up and you're building your own pedestal to be equal to everyone else.
Absolutely. One of the people, she's actually the director of the nonprofit. One of the things she said once, and it resonated really strongly, was borrowing the self-worth self-worth from others. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes when you come from a negative situation or something that, you know, you're ashamed of, whatever, ultimately that self-love, self-worth, all those things can be really hard to just create out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Where if you have a child you really care for or someone you really look up to and you know that they see value in you, mm-hmm. kind of borrowing that and using that to, like, you know, work your way up and build that relationship with yourself. So and that was a big problem with me. And that's actually, I'm like the most sensitive to my kids. I have a 7-year-old stepdaughter and a 3-year-old son. And our interactions are how I at least I personally feel in the situation. That's like one of my big flags, or something I stay consciously on the lookout for or aware of, is my ability to connect with them. If I don't feel like I can connect with them, or if for some reason I'm pushing myself away from them, then I know there's a big disconnect in my life somewhere. And that's kind of just an easy one for me to spot.
That's really good. And I like that. I think that the generations, you know, now that are raising kids and to come are more sensitive to the needs, the emotional needs of the children. As before, it may have been, you know, we made it through, you can survive, like get over yourself, right? But now we look at our children and we're like, no way. I want you to have the childhood and the parents that I didn't have. I want to be that good parent for you and that strong, you know, loving, compassionate mom, dad, things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then back in line with all the addiction recovery stuff. So me and Ayla are both in recovery, or, you know, both used to have serious, you know, heroin issues, or, you know, more than that. And making sure that we are, you know, first getting ourselves together mentally, routine wise, all these things, because we don't want to pass that. You know, we don't want the kids to have too traumatic of a life, and, you know, they're both pretty young, and we're trying to be as stable and consistent as possible, you know, things like that.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the intentions are what drives you to do it. So that's the right step to, you know, to be on, to take. Going back to when you had said, you know, coming out of prison, you didn't even have the skills that were necessary. What types of skills and maybe opportunities and services should we be more concerned of getting to, you know, to ex-felons?
Yeah. I mean, specifically, you know, I had 3 years mandatory. It didn't matter what I did. I couldn't get a good day. I couldn't get out a day early. That entire time, I attended like one program. AA came, you know, on a weekly basis. But besides that, any job skills, social skills, anything, there was no like skill building. And, you know, beyond the fact that it's like a very detrimental place to be, mentally, emotionally, all those things. It's you know, depending on where you are, but it can be a very tense, violent, it's not a good situation for self improvement. But you know, beyond that, there wasn't very many programs, and if there was, the wait list was, say, 10 years. So there's people that, you know, are getting into the one CDL program with 7 seats that they run once a year, you know, things like that. So, I mean, just getting more programs in there in general, but then things that teach specific life skills. Like 90% of what I've learned that is helping me, I learned in the last, you know, less than 2 years. And that was by seeking it out on my own, finding other people that would work with me and teach me. And, you know, I could trade my time for some skills from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really had no idea how money worked. Like I could survive. I could go trade enough labor to pay my bills, but there was no providing for any type of future. Um, or yeah. So if we could teach people financial skills and how to make money, earn money, the importance of savings and the importance of investing, importance of financial education, so you can even spot an opportunity, because an opportunity will walk right past you, and
Yeah.
you never have seen it if you don't know how to spot those.
Yeah.
So those were huge for me, and that's actually what I'm trying to bring to other people from situations like me, is how to set goals, have a vision, have something to work towards, and then figure out how to fund that vision. Like how do you increase your earning capacity? How do you expand from there? So
I love that. And that's such a valuable and needed, necessary service. In your opinion, should it be the prisons who provide some of these classes for the inmates, or should it be like nonprofits and community outreach programs and things like that? Like, where do you think would be the best, place to kind of put the perspective on?
it's a really good question. So in my opinion, I would like to see more nonprofits, or more, maybe a separate entity from the correctional institutions themselves providing it, because in my opinion that would lead to more funding and growth and encompassing of all this, and I don't feel that could, from my experience or my, at least whatever bias, I don't feel like that would end in a good direction. So, but bringing in, like you said, nonprofit or organizations specifically that work with people in that situation, like the Salvation Army is a great one. I went through, I was completely homeless, sleeping in an abandoned house, went through one of their adult rehabilitation programs. The deal there was you work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and that paid for your stay basically. So there's models like that I think are great. They have the infrastructure set up for that. We would work with donations to supply their stores. And that's how I, earned my stay there. But yeah, I think ideally outsourcing it to people that are either already are doing that or have infrastructure or a good grasp on it.
Definitely. No, that's wonderful. That's good to know, and good thing for people to think about, and of course, seek out in all of your communities. If you are struggling to find skills, reach out to me and I can put you in touch with Sterling.
Absolutely.
All of those great things. Oh, we almost had a visitor. Well, I am really, really grateful for your time, and where can we learn more about your program? Do you have a website or anything like that, or social media we can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal website is just my first and last name. It's sterlingshrout.com.
Okay.
And there, I'll connect with anybody that, I have the opportunity to, and try to help out wherever I can. And then, like we talked about with the nonprofit, we started doing an addiction recovery mastermind, basically, and it's all those skills that we've kind of covered here. And that's something that we try to, help other people learn. So far, the results are good. So.
Yeah. And is that through in like an online service? Is it online and everything?
Yeah, so that's like a virtual meetup over Zoom.
Perfect.
The website's onelifefullylived.org. Sorry.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and I'll make sure to have all the text up on the screen and down in the description, so there'll be links to go to find you and to get there. Thank you so much for your story, and it's so inspiring. And just for me personally, I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Great job. Everyone likes to hear, they're doing good. So keep up the good work for the community. And of course, all the viewers and listeners, if there are ex-felons or inmates that that are going to need help and assistance, let's find some outreach programs in our communities. Let's do a little bit more work to really make our community a whole. And that starts with you, and it includes everyone. So thank you so much for being here today, Sterling.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Blinky Minky Blankets, handmade double-sided Minky blankets, highest quality and craftsmanship, creating your perfect blanket for your loved one as a special forever gift. Code word the mouth for discount today. By Dana Ball Legal Services. Avoid common legal mistakes and protect your small business. Dana makes it affordable for your Utah small business to avoid common legal mistakes with business operations, contracts, and employees. Get more information today at danaballlaw.com.
By Moving with Autism, a service for autism families seeking real estate and design services that provide support for their child's development and family lifestyle. Natalie Castro is a Utah autism real estate specialist and autism sibling whose mission is to connect families to community support with sensory-friendly designs and relocation services. By Elevation Chiropractic Center. Get started on your path to full health. Elevation Chiropractic Center uses the upper cervical chiropractic technique to get results by identifying and solving the root issues of your medical condition quickly and safely. Elevation Chiropractic Center, Salt Lake City, Utah.
This story is brought to you by Water and Body Basics, West Valley City, Utah.